I did a review for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on my channel a little while ago. Check it out please. And one thing I sort of glanced over was the Mercenaries mode. I figured I'd give myself a challenge to try to see how far I could get in one day and to see if I can get all of the unlockables offered. To be fair, I did play through it a couple times before just to get some footage for the review, but I didn't really get so far. On the surface, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis' The Mercenaries Operation Mad Jackal may seem simple. You have 2 minutes to get to the same area Jill Valentine starts her adventure in the main story. Your main objective is to kill almost everything in your path, get some time added to the clock, so it doesn't fall to 0. Sounds easy, right? It's never that easy. So you get this mode from clearing Resident Evil 3 Nemesis for the first time. There are 3 characters to select from: Carlos, Jill's love interest I guess, and his 2 senpais, Mikhail and Nikolai. Let's start with Nikolai first. Oh, okay, actually, let's do Carlos. Carlos has the assault rifle and the special pistol, with some extra ammo and 3 mixed herbs that'll heal you in a pinch. For the first playthrough with Carlos, I tended to avoid enemies in the beginning. Where there was big piles of enemies, I would fire at a semi-rapid pace, and these big groups are where you're going to get most of your time bonus from. Dogs continue to be annoying as always, but if you dodge and get back, you can pick them off one by one and rack up some extra time. At least 20 seconds worth. I was really surprised to see Nemesis just charge at you full speed. Appropriately, I tried to avoid him as best as I could. Not only that, but hunters come for your head as well. Halfway through, you run into another Nemesis and more zombies. I was still mostly avoiding them, but this is where the problems set in. If you're not shooting anything, you're not going to get any extra time added to the clock, and I was running out of it. Fast. And by this time, I was totally on edge since I hadn't made it this far yet. My palms were starting to get sweaty, and when I ran into another pair of hunters, I took some hits, but I made it to the last part, and boy was I freaking out. I only had the handgun left, and while it works well, I was afraid I was going to run out of time. I blasted through the zombies, and with 10 seconds to go, I made it to the goal. I was relieved I had cleared the Mercenaries. Although, I really didn't. So here's the thing, you get a grade at the end of each round, be it from dying or clearing it outright. Your grade is based off a point system, and they don't tell you directly, but it's things like killing zombies, not using first aid sprays, and, things like that, kind of like the main game. So not only do you have to protect yourself and beat the game within a certain time period, you have to rack up these points. You're going to get money, which you could spend on unlimited ammo Gatling guns, rocket launchers, assault rifles, and then finally unlimited ammo for every weapon. These were the bonuses I tried to get within one day. Jill's gonna be packing, and while it's total overkill, I think it's hilarious, and I really just wanted to get everything. I tried playing with Mikhail next, and he's the heavy hitter. It's all the big guns, but you only have 1 herb this time. I experimented a bit since I was coming off of Carlos. I wanted to see how using the shotgun, magnum, and rocket launcher would change things. Another thing I started to do during these runs was hitting the barrels. That was my biggest mistake the first time playing this, was not taking advantage of these things. They will rack up so much points and give you such huge bonuses, you have to plan your strategy around them. Also, you have this big bad Tentacle Nemesis that descends from the top of the pile up here. He's easy to run past, but he's hard to take down. I made it far, but I died at the hunters. Even with your health on caution, they're gonna take you out with one fell swoop. Literally. And even though I had lost with him, Mikhail felt like my go-to guy. I just liked his playstyle. Because I had started getting used to the route, I didn't need so many herbs, and his ability to use a variety of weapons was really helpful. Once you get into the rhythm of how enemies attack and the way things work, it isn't so bad. I played Carlos a couple more times, but I know I just had to get back to Mikhail. Nikolai is just off the table completely for me. To be fair, I didn't make it to the dogs with him, but I just can't imagine subjecting myself to further torture, especially with the hunters and the Nemesis showing up. Forget about it. So I went through with Mikhail again, doing much better and finishing with enough time to spare. I figured I'd use my weapons properly and this was it. But I still got a D. I figured I was doing something wrong. And then it dawned on me. I was missing something so crucial. I was missing the survivors. Up until this point, I had been running the same path over and over, familiarizing myself with the route and making the game a bit easier. What I failed to account for was the extra survivors scattered throughout the city. Going to get them is going to take some time away from your end goal, but the reward is worth it. Not only do you get extra time for saving them, you also get extra ammo and extra points. There's zombies and other creepy crawlies though, so you have to tread carefully if you divert from the beaten path. If you want a higher score, you gotta find them. So I set off again with new goals in mind. I managed to find the first 2 without much problem, but it was when I got to Brad it was more difficult. Mostly because he was dead every time I got there. Sad as I was, I had to move on, and in the power plant I found Marvin, as usual, no problem. Here's where things would get hard though, because depending on the playthrough, I'd either lose by running out of time or ammo. It's tough getting all 5 survivors, especially on the same run. I did a bit of practice in subsequent runs, where I tried to get just one of the survivors and then rinse and repeat a few times just to practice. But unfortunately, even after a lot of practice, I was still having a tough time chaining together a perfect run. Getting all the survivors is just really tough, and on top of that, the hunters and the nemesis become more and more of a hassle. The first time you run into hunters, the first one is easy to pop if you're Mikhail, just use the magnum. The second one though, for some reason I can just never get, even with auto aim on. I could just never establish a proper pattern with him, and I'm usually just taking hits. Even though I'm pointing right at him, it just doesn't hit him. And after that is the Tentacle Nemesis. He was tough at first because I was trying to take him out without the red barrels, but then once I learned his movements and everything, it wasn't so bad. He might seem really tough, but once you figure out his attack patterns, you can pop him with the 3 barrels and finish him off with the rocket launcher. That's what I did, and it worked. The first 2 survivor routes, I got down to a science and they usually went off without a hitch. Brad became easier too and he'd stop dying on me. Marvin was tough just because of the poisonous spiders, and I felt like after him was the make or break moment for my runs. The last survivor is actually Carlos in a bar, and he's not too bad either, and he'll give Mikhail some enhanced ammo. Not a bad deal, but there's about 7 zombies in the bar and hunters outside. Seriously, you just can't get enough of the hunters. The one I went for the least was Nikolai. Not only do you have zombies and creepy crawlers, but you also have hunters inside, and it's those amphibious hunters who, for some reason, seem way harder here than in the main game. Unfortunately, I was running out of time, and because I had work that day, I couldn't complete the challenge in one day. So I ended the night just short of getting the final unlockable, which was the unlimited ammo. I got everything else though. So the next day I popped in the game and I gave myself a bit of leeway. I had to try to get an S rank by the time I reached that $9,999 unlimited ammo bonus. I hadn't planned on going for grades specifically when I first started, but that said, the runs were starting to get a little bit boring just because I felt like I was grinding for money only, whereas this gave me a different incentive. I started off with a really solid run too. This one, I felt like I really could have gone for all hostages, but I was kinda nervous and I wanted to play it safe, and I went for the end instead. I thought maybe I would have enough because I got everyone except Nikolai, but I was hoping it would give me an S rank. But nope, it was an A. My next couple of runs were definitely ended by silly mistakes. Had I not made, I think I could have gotten to Nikolai and got the S ranks, but it didn't matter because on the last run I planned to go for the gold. I wanted to get all the survivors and see what rank that'd give me. This was it. This was the run. Usually the first shots you fire, at least for me, feel indicative of how the run is going to go. I knew it was going to get rough when I couldn't get those beginning shotgun shots out properly. I wasn't getting the time bonuses I usually got, and I knew that things were not going to go well. Things were a little bit okay after that, but I was just using too much ammo. And then of course it was the hunters here that ruined my day. The first one dead, no problem, but it was these next two. I just couldn't hit them, and even though I was dodging, I took a lot of hits, a lot of damage, and I used up too much magnum ammunition. It was really a bummer because everything was going good until these guys, and even the fight against Tentacle Nemesis, which, usually is a problem, I took him out easier than ever. While things proceeded normally, I was running out of ammo fast. I wanted to go for Nikolai, but I just didn't have enough ammo to do it. I went for Carlos instead at the bar, and even that was tough because I used all my shotgun shells and I used up all my magnum rounds. These are crucial for the hunters, but instead I had enhanced shotgun shells. These would just have to do. It was getting risky finishing up. Here I could have went for Nikolai, but I just felt like the shotgun shells wouldn't be enough, and I just decided to head for the exit instead. I managed to get by the last set of hunters, but of course I used up tons of shotgun shells. And in the end I got to the final room. Another A. It's a bummer, but I got enough money to get the last unlock, and that was it. I got what I came in for, and I had a fun time doing it, to be honest. Mikhail was my go-to guy in the end, and Carlos was not packing quite enough ammo to get through, and again, like I said, Nikolai, I believe, was just made for either sadists or the game developers, because he is just so hard to play with. Seriously, if you can beat his run, you are a legend, and if you get an S run, you are just next level. The Mercenaries was a surprisingly enjoyable experience. I thought it would just be a quick side game and that would be it, but it was a lot of fun and it really deepened my knowledge of the game. There are some things I still don't understand, of course, like how the bullet spread works and why auto-aim doesn't work sometimes and it can be really wonky, but it definitely helped with my dodging abilities, my level layout knowledge, and I even got some sweet perks for the next time I play Resident Evil 3. I wonder what it's going to be like just to rampage through the game with unlimited ammo. But that's it for today, at least. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you liked what you saw, subscribe to GPX Japan and stay tuned for more Resident Evil goodness for the month of October. See you in the next one.